Okay, guys, so today I'm interviewing Dan, who's part of my six-figure Instagram program. Now, I'm going to give you a very quick overview of Dan and his sort of journey with us, and sort of what he's achieved within the last sort of 3 months. But once we actually get into the interview itself, he'll give you a much better sort of description on where he's been over the last sort of year or two. Now, Dan is someone who's in the branding space. He has a brand agency. He's based in Manchester in the UK, and he's in a very unique position because he is someone who has not that many followers, and he was struggling to get clients for a good few months. And what's interesting is that was investing with another coach, a coach who was teaching him about branding and everything to do with branding. But that coach was extremely successful, one of the best coaches he could possibly have got. But he just wasn't getting clients. And that's not necessarily because of the coach or because of what he was being taught. But what we realized and what you'll find out in this video is that when you invest into a mentor, when you invest into a coach, it's extremely important you invest in the right person. But the right person isn't necessarily the person who's had the most success. The right person really depends on where you currently are in your situation and what you need to get from point A to point B and not from point A to point Z. Okay? And what happened is that after working with Dan, literally within the first month, we took him from having 0 clients to getting booked out on his branding services and earn about $5,000 in the process. And now he's in a position where he knows exactly what he needs to do to get clients. He knows exactly what content he has to create. He knows exactly how to handle the sales call and how to handle the entire sales process. So now he's in a really good position where he has the branding knowledge of how to run his business, but also the sales and the marketing knowledge to be able to get clients. Okay, guys, so without further ado, I'm going to stop talking. I want to get straight into the interview with Dan. I've given everyone a very quick overview, from my perspective of what you've done, where you've been and where you're at. But can you give your version of events? So give us a very quick overview of your last, let's say the last year for you. What's happened over the last year?
All right, so I guess we'll start with lockdown time, because that was kind of when things I got a bit of a kick out of the bum, really. So I've been doing branding for the last 3 years, but not really took it anywhere. And then lockdown hit and I had a load of time. And that's when I was introduced to Instagram and stuff. And I met you obviously a year ago and a load of other people that I knew that I now speak to. And but didn't really know what to do with it. I didn't really know how to use it in a business. Didn't really know how it would work in terms of growing a business and stuff, how it would benefit me. And then the business rebranded from what it used to be to what it is now, to No Ramble. And I helped with that, and that was great. And then obviously we started this about 3 months ago, I think it was now, and I was really struggling with clients, not being able to get clients, and I knew what to do after I got a client, but the lead generation and physically getting the client through the door was the difficult part for me. So and I think you mentioned you were a few steps ahead of me, which was perfect. It just rung true. So we started 3 months ago, and now we're flying.
Brilliant. What do you think? Because obviously you mentioned you weren't getting clients, and you can obviously fill in the details, but just for people watching, you was working with someone else who was very good at what he done, helped you set up your system and your process, but really struggled to help you get clients. And obviously we started working together, and I think it was maybe only 2 or 3 weeks until you had that first client come through the door. Now, what do you think was the reason for that? What was the big change that you made that had led to that first client and then that second client then coming in?
So I think it was genuinely, I think it was mindset, and just have my eyes opened a little bit, because the person that I was working with before, it was very much a case of they were great at all the process and stuff, and this is what you do for invoicing and tax and all that sort of stuff, and physical documents that you make for your business. But we're always struggled with getting to that point. So, and it was kind of an older way of working. Back in my industry, it's all very much referral based, and it's who you know, what not what you know, kind of thing. So I really struggled with kind of getting to that first client, getting past that bollard. But I guess it was kind of a mind shift change where it didn't have to just be networking events and Google ads and business cards. Like there was a new world out there that was digital, and not many people were doing it at the time. Like when we first started, in terms of like in my industry, like I know a lot of people probably do it day to day and around the world, but definitely none of my competitors have been doing like using Instagram the way I use it. And whenever I meet anybody at these networking events, you always go, "Have you got a business card?" I'm like, "No, we're using Instagram." And they go, "Oh, how does that work? Like, what do you mean?" So it's definitely a mind shift change for the industry as well as the business that I run. And that's what it was, really, to change that up a little bit. That makes sense. But
Yeah. What about your actual sales process? Because I know that there was a part of it that we changed. Could you talk about that a bit more of the specifics on like the actual sales process itself and how someone goes from a stranger to a potential client to being on a call and how you then close them? Like, can you talk about that?
Yeah. So it was all about like I pretty much had no authority. Do you know what I mean? So the part of I think for me as well, like the biggest part of the sales process is all about that authority, because it's so cluttered in our industry. Like you need that name for yourself, and you need that kind of leverage. And I was missing that part of the sales process for me. So we put that in place, and then it kind of moves forward. And then so I've always been taught about like, you need to have a proposal. You need to have like, you need to go through this like 25-page document for the client to show you exactly what point you're going to get. And it bored me. It always bored me. And I was always like, this is the worst part of my job. Like, I hate this part. And I think it was like the third call we had where you were like, okay, well, who says you've got to have that proposal? Who says it's got to be that way? Show me the rule book of that. And I was like, I have a rule book. There's no rule book. And that was like another mind shift that I had, where it's kind of like, oh, it doesn't have to be that way. Like literally no one says it's got to be that. There's no policing branding that says you've got to have this proposal. Then we switched it up and really simplified the process in terms of like, the calls are really like 15-20 minutes now as opposed to being like an hour. It obviously benefits the clients because they're quite time poor these days. They come to me for a reason. They don't have time to set an hour phone call to run through what I'm going to do for them. They just want to know that the results are going to, I'm going to solve their problem through brand. So they don't really care about the nitty gritty of it. So then the offer that we built was kind of, it was just like, I think my new documents, like it's the same for every single client. It just outlines everything. I can dig deeper into things if a client asks, like a prospect asks. But not many people do like the documents enough. I think it's in like 6 pages, if that. Two of them I've just got to work on it, just to show examples and social proof. But it works well. It works really well, and I think again, I don't think anybody else is doing it that way. Like I think the industry's been hinged on the fact that it needs to be a proposal. It needs to follow this really strict process. If you don't follow this process, then it's not a business. But speaking to you and going through the course, it kind of opened your eyes to different ways of doing things, and that was the big change, really. It's changed that. It's the biggest takeaway I think I've taken away from the whole process is that there actually is no rule. If you do it differently, take that by the balls and run with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, who says that it needs to be that way? But I think that's the biggest thing in the sales process for me.
100%. I think it's such an important point you're making, which is like, if you do it differently, like run with it. And I think why it works so well for you, and this may or may not be the case, but the people that who'd got on board as clients within those first few weeks, the chances are in the past they had probably spoken to people before about getting branding done, getting their branding done, and starting a project with someone else. And most likely they were taken through the usual process of, this is what we can do. We'll send across a proposal, 30-page proposal, have a look through it, get back to us, let us know your thoughts, and that regular, setup. So I think just in the fact that you had a different sales process in itself positioned you very differently to everyone else straight away, and because, part of your sales process, you're focusing on the problem, and that's why you do branding. It's you solve problems. It's not to make something look nice. It's to solve an actual problem. And because we then aligned the sales call and the sales process with that idea of, well, this is the problem, This is how we're going to solve the problem. This is how much it's going to be. It streamlined it and made it much more effective, which I think is pretty cool. And there is no rule book. Like you said, there's no rule book. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing. You just have to do something that works, and you found something that works for you, and you just keep doing that now until perhaps it doesn't work. I don't know, but you'll keep doing it, keep adjusting and keep refining as you go,
Yeah, I think that was it. Like, so obviously, like, I'm very like simplistic and to the point, and that's kind of it. Like, I don't really like wishy-washy, like, look. So I mean, so it made loads more sense when we were going through it. So I was like, well, this speaks to my business more, it speaks to me more, just it being this one thing. That's it. Take it or leave it. Most people take it, most people love it because it's so different. But yeah, so yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Agree anymore.
Yeah, of course. What advice would you have them for people that in your particular niche, so people in the branding niche in particular? What advice would you give them based on what you've learned like so far in the program? What advice would you give them to help them scale their business?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of people in my industry, and there's a lot of people on Instagram and in the same situation that I was in my industry, and I think a lot of people kind of gel into one. That makes sense. Like, there's no differentiation anymore on Instagram in terms of like people that content wise, offer wise, what you're trying to do with Instagram and your clients and stuff. So I think just like me, find that thing that makes you different, whether it be your sales process, the offer that you have, or the way you do things in your process. Because I know the offer that we built, it's kind of like a phased approach that you pay for. It's not like we'll find out what's wrong first, and then we'll then propose what we think is going to work, and then you'll pay at that point. That's halfway through the project for me, and people love that. Do you know what I mean? So if it just find something that makes you different, like I said earlier, just run with it, absolutely run with it, and scream about it, because otherwise you're just gonna get kind of washed up in the same sea as everybody else. Because it gives you that clarity as well. That was a big thing for me going through this process, was just clarity. I'm not really knowing what to do. Having all the tools available, but not really knowing how to build the house. That makes sense. I just had no idea what I was doing really. Like, I knew what I needed to do, but I kind of didn't know what order I'd need to put it in, and how to screw it all together and stuff. And I think a lot of people in my industry lack that, because we're all so creative, and we're also like not very analytical and not very not intelligent, but like business, like academic kind of thing. I think we lack that kind of thought process. I mean, I know I do anyway, so that's why this course has helped me massively. But if you do need the help, get the help, because there's no point just I waited 3 years before I even looked at getting help, and I'm fuming that I've not done it sooner. Because I lacked that side of it, and I understood that I lacked that side of it, so I needed someone to help me with that side of it. So that's why we ended up working together. So that's really.
I think that a few things you mentioned there. So the first thing is that you took 3 years to invest in yourself. Very similar to me. I took 3 or 4 years myself to eventually invest in myself. And when I done it and when you done it, we saw like an immediate change in our business. So it's like everyone is capable of having that huge change in their business, but if you've been going months, weeks, or even or years, and there's been no change, well, it's clear you have to make a change. And usually that change can't come from yourself; it has to come from someone else. Because I personally believe that everyone has a cap, as to where they can go on their own. Some people's cap is higher than others, because just naturally some people can find out information better than other people can, or whatever it might be. So naturally some people are capped at different levels, but we all have a cap. And you hit that cap when you have like a prolonged period of time of no change, no growth, no increase in profit, no increase in clients. Like you've then hit a cap. Which leads me on to sort of my next question, which is, you probably had your own cap. Before you joined the program, you're probably at your own cap. So why do you think then, try and be more specific to this program in particular, because you've done other things before. Why do you think you've had success in this program, in terms of where you've gotten now, and not so much in the other programs that you've done before?
I think it's because like I feel like you said it perfectly when we first started working with each other. Like you said, and I think you put it in a post as well. Like work with somebody that's a few steps ahead of you. That makes sense. Like work with somebody that's only a few steps ahead of you, or maybe like a mile ahead of you, as opposed to like 10 miles. Like I could by all means go and pay and work with Dane, but he's so far ahead of me. He's probably going to look at my business and go, God, I can't remember what I did at that point. I don't know how I got out of that rut. Whereas you're only a bit further ahead of me, so it was easy for you to go, yeah, so I did this, and this is going to help you, and try this, and do you know what I mean? So that kind of process and working with somebody that's only a few steps, like that changed my mind altogether. Like I was going to go and work with the future with Chris Doe. I was going to sign up to their course. That was a lot of money, and they luckily had like a questionnaire thing that says, "Oh, are we right for you?" And I filled it out, and they were like, "No, we're not right for you. Don't waste your money," kind of thing. And I was like, "Oh, well, I just assumed it was so expensive that it was going to like work out, and I was going to be this multi-billionaire." But it, you know what I mean? It didn't. They were probably right. Like they were so far ahead of me and what I wanted to achieve and stuff. Whereas you were kind of the right person at the time, which I think is massive in this industry. Like you need to make sure you work with the right people. But yeah, that's my answer really. I'd say it's just more. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And it's such an important thing, is picking the right person, to work with and to go with. And I think there's a right and wrong way to go about it. I think some people just go with the first person they hear of through sort of fear, just think, oh, and I need someone to help me, I'm just going to go with this person. And that's the wrong way to do it. Other people spend months, interviewing and talking to like multiple different people to find out which one they want to work with. And that in itself is just a waste of time and not really the best way to do it. For me, I think it's like, if you find someone who you resonate with on more than one level, and you find someone who, I think anyway, if you're going to, get a mentor, invest in a program, whatever it might be, like make sure that the person you're getting it from is like in the position that you want to be in, or like as close to the position you want to be in as possible, and has had a very similar path and a very similar journey to what you have. Because then, and that's why this worked well for you, is because I had a very similar path to you, a few months ago, a year ago, whatever. And now you're treading the same steps, the same path that I took. And because I have that experience in that side of things, I can help you a lot with that. So I think it's such an important thing you mentioned about picking the right person and knowing who that is. But I just think it's the right way to go about it and the wrong way as well.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of two things, isn't it? Like, firstly, you realize, or you make that decision to, oh, I need help. I need to invest in myself. I need help. But then because people have that like adrenaline, like, yeah, I'm going to get help. I'm going to, this is it. I'm going to be really successful. They'll go Dane or, Chris Doe or the future. And it's wrong. Like you need to figure out, it's like you said, like figure out the process that you want to go down, find people that have done the process. And go from there. I read a quote ages ago, I think. I don't know whether somebody's posted it, but it was about advice. Like when someone's giving you advice, take more note of the person giving you the advice as opposed to the actual advice that they're giving you.
Yeah.
It's a kind of similar thing, isn't it? Like,
Yeah. No, that's it. That's it.
With that.
Cool. Now, what impact has this had on you? And forget about business now, because we sort of covered all of those sort of things. But just in terms of you personally, say like your own personal development and your life as a whole, what impact, if any, I don't know, but has this program had any impact on you as a person, your mindset, your life, just in general?
Yeah, definitely. I think, going 3 years without regular income and regular like clients and stuff, it takes its toll on you. Do you know what I mean? It really takes its toll on you in terms of like mindset and mental health, and do you know what I mean? Like just being kind of sat there going, what am I doing wrong? Like what can I do right? Like I don't feel like I can do anything else. To the point where you get there and you go, so what? If I don't get another client this time next week, that's it. I'm done. I go and get a job. I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. And then so it's given me like a lot of like my life's a lot less stressful. If that makes sense, because I've got a process in place. I know what I need to do with it. Like I don't feel like I'm wandering through a field of nothing. Do you mean like I feel like I'm on the right track now? Like I'm on a race course that just kind of goes round and round and round, as opposed to being like a field of wheat, not really knowing what direction's going. And it saves, like it's like I just said, like it's the stress levels have gone right down, happiness levels have gone right up. I'm excited for the future. Do you know what I mean? I was never really that excited for the future because I was always scared of the future. I was scared of going, oh, it's been 3 years. What happens if it gets to 4 years, I'm still in the same position? Like that fear of, and then everyone going, well, we told you so. We told you you shouldn't have done this. Do you know what I mean? But now I can turn around and go, well, I'm doing it now. This is it. The business is working. I'm happy. Like it's kind of a big like, yeah, I told you I could do it in the first place. That it's like wholesome. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But because I'm happier, obviously, family's happier, partner's happier. Just all round quality of life is so much better because I don't have that stress anymore. I don't have that like worry, that fear of not doing well in life and not reaching the goals that I want to reach. Like it's just giving me like a new lease of life.
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool. It's amazing. It's amazing to hear that. You mentioned a few pain points there. So, like for you, what was the reason you decided to invest in a program? Like, what was it that made you make that change? 3 months ago, whenever it was, what was going through your mind that said you said to yourself, like, because of this reason, I must make a change. Like, what was that reason?
I think it was just like, it was a couple of things. They're all kind of linked together, but I think it was the drive to want to do well. Like I hate the thought of getting to like 50 years old and not really have done much of my life and not really have built anything. Like I want something to be built when I'm young to then take through to later life, to have an easier life in the future. So it's the fear of like time running away with me. Like I'm 26 this year, which seems really, I know it's really young and it sounds crazy, but like when you've been doing this thing for 4 years, it feel old. I feel old in the business. Like I feel like I felt like I should have been further on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just the stress of things, like trying to do things on your own, like, and like you said earlier with having your cat. Like I'd never heard that before. It makes so much sense. Like I probably hit my cap that I didn't realize, and I've just kind of gone, well, it's now. I got to a point where I was like, this either works or I am going to stop doing the business. Like that's it. Like I can't deal with the stress anymore. I can't deal with the being unhappy and fighting with my family and fighting with my partner and me trying to like prove my point, but then having nothing to back it up. That makes sense. Like it was really tolling. So it was a mix of like ambition and wanting to do well and the drive of wanting to be successful, but also the fact that it was taking a lot of toll on me, and it was really taking its toll on like happiness and mental health and motivation and stuff like that. Like it was tough. Then I sat there one day and just thought, this is my last ditch attempt. I've spent loads of money in the past on various courses and mentors and university obviously, and that it just nothing really worked. I got to a point where I was like, this either works or I'm out, kind of thing. Like there was nothing else that I didn't know where else to go. That makes sense. But then you put your story out and said, does anyone need help? And I was like, yeah, I need that help. And then 3 months later we're here.
No, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Honestly, mate, it's so good to see the transformation you've had, because obviously, most people won't know, but we've known each other longer than 3 months. We've known each other for a good, a year and a half now anyway. And from knowing what you was like then compared to now, like it's just completely night and day. The difference between the type of person you are and what you're doing, like it's crazy. It really is crazy. But particularly the last 3 months, it's sort of accelerated that change. which has just been really great to see. You know,
Yeah.
my final question then for you would be like, everything you've said so far describes sort of your situation, and I know that there are going to be people watching this who are going to be either in the same situation or very similar situation in terms of their pain points and what it is they're struggling with.
Yeah.
What would you say to anyone who is, thinking about investing in themselves, whether that's with me or with someone else? I don't really care, but what would you say to someone who is thinking about making that investment but is just holding back? What would be your words to them?
You know what, like, and this was a big thing for me before I started working with any. I mean, as you know, I worked with a coach before you, and like that experience didn't really help me because I was like, well, they're all the same, and it's all just fluff, like all the stuff that you put on Instagram with, do you want to get 10 grand a month and stuff, and 5 grand a month, and do you want to earn big money? I always used to look at it and think, you've got a crap. I mean, it's not. That's not true. You never get to that point, but it's true. Like, I can't stress it. If I could shake my laptop and tell people to just do it, just make the investment, just do it, but make sure it's the right person.
Yeah.
Because I wasted, well, not wasted, but hemorrhaged a lot of money, but on the wrong resources, when it was kind of the wrong point at that time.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But it genuinely works, and I can't stress it enough to anybody that says to me, anybody that pops up to me and says, "Oh, I didn't realize you were working with Harry," or "I didn't realize you were doing this. Like, how has it been?" And my first words are, "It works." Like, don't ignore everybody else. Like, it genuinely, if you put the effort in, it's not like a magic wand that Harry's got that you've got. It's obviously you going, here's the toolbox, there's the instructions to build the house. I'll be with you every step of the way, like supervising the journey. But you're going to get a lot out of it, and value for money is massive for it as well. Like, I can't stress enough how much it does work. Like, you see them on like Facebook, don't you? And like, especially like the Forex trader things. No, that's not what you do, but it kind of gets gelled into one, doesn't it? Like, the coach and stuff, and you just think, this is not true. Like, you're selling lies. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But going through the process, like, it genuinely works, and it's proven. I'm living proof. I know some of the people that we've met along the way are living proof of it working.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, it's not like a case of, give Harry X amount of money and join the course and that's it. It's you've got to put the work in. Which means if you want it to work, you've got to put the work in for it. But that would be the advice. Like, just know it works. Because I know that was a big thing for me. Like, I didn't really think it was going to work. Went to sleep at night after our first call going, oh, what have I done? Why have I done this again? Like, I don't know why I'm really sucked into it. But I'm glad I did. And I can't stress it enough. Like, that I'm an example of it working and kind of being in the worst situation possible, where I was literally at the point of packing everything in, to now being like, I can see this big wide open future. Like, the process works, and just trust the process. Eventually, I say it all the time, but trust that process with yourself and or whoever it is that people want to hire, obviously. But trust that process and just work with it, work hard at it, and it'll get you to places where you want to be. Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. I appreciate that, mate. And I feel like I said, just to sort of go back on to the point I made earlier, like, your transformation has just been amazing to see. I think if we could make a movie out of it, like, it would be so good for people to see it, because it's been such a great transformation. But I think that it's something that probably you should talk more about anyway. So if people watching, go and follow Dan. I'll put his Instagram username in the description below. Go and follow Dan. If you've got any questions about his journey, if you're like in the branding space or whatever, go and speak to him, because he can give some really good insight. Because he's worked with the best. He's worked with some of the really top brand, I don't know what they're called, brand designers or just brand people in general. He's worked with some of the really best people, and he's also worked with me as well. So go and speak to him, ask him questions, understand his journey, what he struggled with, what he went through, and just great. So look, Dan, well, let's wrap this up. I don't want to keep people for too long. Just want to say I appreciate you taking the time again. Super happy and proud of sort of where you've been. Looking forward to the next sort of 3 months or however long we've got left working together. And appreciate you jumping on. Okay, mate.
Cheers, Harry. Thanks for everything you done, mate. Much
Cool.
appreciated.